Hello, everyone, and welcome to the closing plenary for the 2024 Resnick Aspen Action Forum. To start our program, please welcome to the stage the President and CEO of the Aspen Institute, Dan Porterfield.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I hope you've had another fantastic day 3 of the Resnick Aspen Action Forum. One of the great things about speaking before this audience is that every sentence you say is by definition an applause line. So I won't say too much. Thank you. Big thanks, first of all, to the terrific team led by Dar Venderbeck, Charlotte Lewis, Olivia Cleaves. They put this on. You were amazing, are amazing, and we know there's still more great things to come, and thank you all. Also, big thanks to the numerous trustees of the Aspen Institute who are here, our sponsors, our partners who are here. There's Ann McNulty and her foundation team, Margot and Tom Pritzker, Shamina, Emily, and Sandy from the MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, Stacy Schusterman, Lisa Eisen, Nicole Baker-Fulgham from the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Philanthropies, Marla Blow and the Skoll Foundation team, Eric Zing and Richard Morton from Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, and of course, please join me in welcoming and extending our gratitude to Linda and Stuart Resnick, our champions and longtime supporters. And a special thanks to Linda and Stuart for bringing their dear friend Ariana Huffington here to join us today. Thank you very much for being here. We know you are going to leave with a heart full of excitement after hearing some of the ideas that the fellows and the families have put together for us, and thank you, Ariana. Of course, to everyone, most of all, because in an Aspen gathering, the crowd, the audience is always as important as whoever's on stage. It's one big collective here. Thank you all for everything you've done so far to participate actively, to commit to important conversations, some of them hard and unscripted and worked out in the moment. We thank you for designing all sorts of creative and innovative ideas and solutions that you brought here to workshop and play out and improve upon and spread. You've all worked tirelessly to get here, to be here, some traveling many hours in unreliable planes to be a part of this experience, because you are all so committed to this idea and this ideal that Aspen stands for of a free, just, and equitable societies for all everywhere. And you renew yourselves and all of us when you make the commitment to come here and to make the meaning that this forum represents. So thank you. The Aspen Institute came into this world 75 years ago, a couple weeks actually. Our anniversary was in late June. And it was in an age of post-war hope and institution building, and also very troubled times, post-Holocaust, post-Hiroshima, the Soviet Union rising, communism spreading throughout China, civil rights movement in the United States coming to center stage. And the people that gathered here in those times of both hope and hardship were thinkers and doers from the business society, from the business world and from the civil society, who basically thought they'd get here in the Colorado mountains to do nothing less than plan the future of humanity. They had enormous ideals that gathered this group of 3,000 that came here to discuss the futures, plural, of humanism and the hope that humanism could somehow, in the aftermath, again, of the Holocaust and of Hiroshima, humanism, a focus on the person, the community, the holistic nature of every one of us, would allow the world, our various countries, our various communities, to stand for and protect and signify that there's something called human dignity, which each of us have and all of us have equally. And just as human dignity was the foundation of the development of those great global documents, the International Declaration of Human Rights and the Conventions Against Torture and Genocide, so human dignity was at the center of the founding of this great institution, and it's one of the foundations that has allowed us to get stronger and broader and more inclusive across these 75 years. Each of you is a part of that because you carry within you the spirit of the AGLN and the Aspen Institute, and that includes the spirit of our founders and the spirit of all new to the Institute, including those here today, who join with open hearts and open minds and a desire to make a difference for all. Those people that came here at that time, 75 years ago, saw what happened when freedom and justice and opportunity and human dignity are stomped upon and stopped. And they were committed with every tool they had, which they thought mainly was the tool of humanism and democratic fellow feeling, to build a better world. And we are the inheritors of their vision, and we are the ones that get the privilege of living it and renewing it and adapting it for the worlds that we live in today. From that very first convening, this institution has pursued a particular purpose, and it's a bold one: to ignite human potential, to build understanding, and promote new possibilities for a better world. And those ideas together, more understanding and a better world with new possibilities to animate it, is what calls us together. It's called some of you to travel again so far to be here. For years, the AGLN and the Resnick Aspen Action Forum have embraced and embodied that purpose I just described. You express it anew every time we come together. You ignite human potential, you build understanding, you promote new possibilities for a better world. I hope this week has provided so many more opportunities to do just that, to catch up and reconnect and share and support and think together about what matters most and what needs to be done right now. Our theme this year, Only Light Can Do That, is a great one. We get it from Dr. King. In times of discord and polarization, leaders must take the first brave steps through the dark to have deep impacts on our relationships and our world, our organizations and our communities. Darkness cannot alleviate darkness. Only light can do that. Today's closing plenary is an example of that lightness that we hope to bring into our world as we focus on building bridges and holding tensions and building values-based coalitions across our many communities in their similarity and their difference. We're fortunate to have this opportunity to have speakers here who really exemplify what it means to be a courageous and values-based leader, a steadfast member of society, and a constant giver and grower and learner on the journey to make more difference. So I'm so excited that we have here Civil Society Fellow Ashley Bell. He asked me to sing the appropriate walk-up song for him, but I can't sing very well, and I don't think Ave Maria would come out right if I did it, but that would be the one I would sing. And after we hear from Ashley, we'll then have the great opportunity to hear from Van Jones and to hear Van and Ashley in dialogue. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Out beyond the ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. And I'll meet you there. Rumi. What I learned 12 years ago is that Aspen is that field. This is that place. This is the space where we can come, debate ideas openly, be vulnerable, and find our way, hopefully, to someplace better than we were before we got here. More full as we head home. My story is I'm from Gainesville, Georgia, a small town. I grew up in a place where my father was an industrial engineer, my mother was a school teacher, but I watched him lose everything. NAFTA came, jobs go overseas, saw a man who was making whatever he was making at that age have to take a job making 10% of that. And I don't know about you, but if you left out of here with 10% of what you walked in with, life changes. My father decided that he would take a purpose-based job and become a jailer at a juvenile detention center because he felt like he had a little bit more to give, and me and my brother had done okay, but he said there's more kids that need fathers in my neighborhood. So I shared my father with 300 other men and women or kids because they were juveniles. And I watched my father minister to them and be everything to them that he was to me. So when I graduated from law school, I had a choice. I could go be at a big firm and do the big law thing, and later in life I did that. But I decided to become a public defender. I decided to go to work with my dad because he was the warden by that time of this juvenile jail. And here's what I learned. I learned that every state prosecutor would bring me a file on a young person that was between the ages of 12 and 17 and tell me this was their story. And I would go to court and have to argue what was in that file. But my father told me that people are more than the files and the labels in front of you. Let me tell you what's really going on in his or her life. He armed me every time I would go into court and tell me what was really behind those eyes of that fear, of worrying that they would never get out of this place. They'd never see playgrounds again. They'd never see their friends in middle school and high school. And I was their only shot. I never lost a case that my father helped me with because he showed me that people are more than that file. And I hope that the files that have been presented to you with the people who you may meet, whether it be affiliations, organizations, where you think they're from, their backgrounds, the people are more than the LinkedIn profiles. And what's beneath there are people who are opportunities to help us all make this world better. It is on that journey of becoming a public defender and walking through that and later finding myself working in the White House that I get to meet Van Jones. It was on that journey after working at the White House that Van and I realized that as two black men that probably have a lot of credentials that you could read all day and we would waste this whole time, that we shared a mentor. We shared a mentor who was a black man who had been incarcerated 35 years. That's a person that he and I both got inspiration from. And it's just a reflection of how many of our best minds have been locked away. I hope that you meet someone on this journey while you're here, and I hope that your conversation helps unlock them to you, to give you access to someone you didn't know, and maybe see them a little bit differently. And so as we talk a little bit today about these choices and what we do to bring people together across political divides and cultural divides, I find myself pivoting in my life. I had an opportunity that a lot of us had during COVID to kind of hit the reset button. Some people made kids, some people started new jobs, people did a lot of things during COVID. I decided, why not go make some movies? Why not recalibrate and buy a bank? Why not start a financial technology company? But like every smart man, I realized you can't do any of that unless you have a very strong woman around you to help you figure it out. And I was fortunate enough that for every one of those companies that I was able to build and start, to have the daughter of the man whose quote Dan just read. The co-founder of all of my companies is Dr. Bernice A. King, a woman who I have grown to admire more and understand the burden that she holds. As any kid that's out here who has a parent with a big name, imagine hers. And she reconciled that by saying, actually, I gave up a long time ago trying to be more famous than my father or my incredible mother, Coretta Scott King. But what I decided to do is just realize that my journey in this life is to help people be like them, to help them understand their teachings, what they have to give to the world. And so I honor Aspen by taking this quote because I understand that hopefully in the teachings and understanding what this word, that phrase means, what light really means, what really is love, that we can understand the power of that and what the power of love can do. So in telling those stories as a lawyer about saving so many young people's lives and helping them get on a better trajectory, there's no difference in making movies. And so part of the goal that I had, it was this phase of my life, was to like, how do I take being someone who wants to tell those stories and find a way of building coalitions? And what I did was Dr. King and I ended up buying a Jewish production company, investing in it, and making it this black and Jewish film production company to tell stories that nobody else was telling. And it started off with this current administration. We were able to look at what happened with a dear friend of ours, Brittany Griner. Anybody ever heard of Brittany? You look at what happened with Brittany Griner. She was a woman that was minding her business, gets tucked away by Putin, and the world is trying to figure out what happened to her. Now, everybody in the beginning was worried about how do you tell Brittany's story. People felt the president wasn't doing enough, wasn't meeting with her spouse, wasn't doing all these things. And then she gets out, and then the other side says, well, you traded her for Satan, go put her back. Now, if you're the president of the United States, you did what you thought was right, but nobody knows how you did it. But for the last 15 months, a company called P3 that we invested in has been embedded inside the White House to tell the story of Americans who've been locked away overseas who aren't famous, who nobody knows their names. And we asked the question, what would your country do to come bring you home if nobody knows who you are? And what would they trade to bring you back home? And that story is of several Latino men, who many of them are from Los Angeles, who a lot of people don't know, but one of them was a lawyer like me, named Evan Hernandez. He was a public defender for LA County, representing homeless people, the least, the last, and the left behind. Nobody knew Evan's name, but his law school buddies at UCLA who would hold vigils for him in Inglewood and Compton. But we decided to tell his story. And with the help of the White House, we were able to go behind the scenes and show the American people the decisions and how hard these things are. But the reality is, you can't tell that story if it wasn't for one guy named Roger Constance. Roger Constance was appointed by Donald Trump. And when Trump left, the only person who stayed in the Biden administration that was a Trump appointee was Roger Constance. Now, I tell you this story because it's easy to say that when one administration goes out, everybody rushes to say, get rid of everybody. Bring in totally new people. But the families who were able to say, I've never had a government official sit at my table and listen to the stories of how I raised my son and how much it is important to me to get him back at this dinner table. I've been growing this avocado tree in my backyard, hoping that one day by the time those avocados are ripe, that my son will be home. No government official was doing that, but the president recognized, despite the political pressure, you have to do what's right for the people, because when you are locked away overseas, this is the one time the only person that could bring you home is the president of the United States. To tell the story of one administration passing to the other one and keeping the focus on the people, not the politics, that is what brings all of us home. All of us can find our way proverbially home. We can never get too focused on who we're fighting against and forget who we are fighting for. And it's in that space that I've been fortunate enough to find allyship with people like Van. Van represents a new voice, a new era of people who are not willing to just succumb to the talking points. But let's just talk about it. And in that, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Van Jones. Thank you, brother.
And he's cute, too. Dressed nice, smell good. We got to get him back to the Democrats. I'm tired. We had a little bit of a plot twist in the news, and I didn't think I was going to get here, but I made it, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad. You know, it's kind of an intimidating group, and as the brother said, we could run through our resumes, but I'd rather start in a different place. You know, my mother and my father died, and I was in the room for each of them dying. So I got a chance to see hospice work up close. It's difficult, it's messy, but you're trying to say goodbye with dignity and with honor. I was also in the room when all 4 of my children were born. Difficult, messy, but you're trying to say hello to something new with respect and hope. Hospice work, midwife work, there's something for us to learn as leaders from that. Because something is dying. The order that we grew up in is dying. The civilization that we grew up in is dying. And something new is trying to be born. And to be a leader now, as you are, in this decade and the next, is to be given the responsibility to hospice the old well, to say goodbye well, to give respect and honor to the things that are passing away, and to bring forth the new. That's our job. And that's not a job any of us were trained for. Nobody told us that. We were expecting to do other things. And so, for me, if there's going to be a new human civilization, which seems to be where we're headed, we have to answer a question. Is it going to be human? Is it going to be civilized? Is it going to be human? Is it going to be civilized? I look at this through the eyes of my daughter. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. Think about this. Her first crush, okay? Her first crush is probably not going to be a rock star or a pop star or a dashing cartoon character. It's probably going to be an AI. It's probably going to be an AI. That's weird. That's weird. That's not the civilization I grew up in. Okay? When she becomes a mother, God willing, in 25 or 30 or longer years. No time soon. Right? She will probably open up a laptop or a holographic interface and using biotech tools design my grandchildren. That's weird. That's weird. When she dies, heaven forbid, when she's 80, 90, 100, she may be buried on the moon or on Mars. Because by the end of this century, we will probably be a fully space-faring civilization. So I'm raising a little girl who's going to grow up in a different civilization than the one that I was born in, or you were born in. And frankly, she's going to grow up on a different planet than the planet I was born on. The planet I was born on, there was never a year where the North Pole was hotter than the Sahara Desert. There was never a year. And certainly in that year, that same year, Texas never froze. That year was 2021. The North Pole was hotter than Sahara, and Texas froze. That's a different planet. So I'm raising a little girl in a different civilization than I was born into, on a different planet. Which means you and I are not who we think we are. You think you're the founder of a company. You're not just that. You think you're the founder of some new startup or some new school of thought in the academy or in science. You're not just that. We are co-founders of a new human civilization. That's who and what we are. And if we're going to do that work, we need different tools and a different mindset and a different skill set than our families gave us, than our education gave us, than our employers are giving us. That's a sacred opportunity obligation and responsibility. And so, for me, I've tried to take seriously that we can't get where we're trying to go for my daughter divided. I am a very bright guy. I shock myself sometimes with the smart stuff I say. But I am not smart enough by myself to figure out any of the things I was just talking about. Nor are the people in my political party smart enough by ourselves to figure out any of the stuff I'm talking about. Nor are the people who pray like me by ourselves smart enough to figure out any of the stuff that I'm talking about. No one group, no one faction, no one philosophy has the goods. And so there has to be a shift. There has to be a shift. We have to learn how to work with each other. And so I met this brother under the worst circumstances for a Democrat. Because he was working for a Republican president. And that's not allowed. We're not supposed to be friends. We're not supposed to even talk. We can't be in the same picture together unless it's like this, like we can't. So how did I wind up working with this brother? Achieving something that everybody said was impossible. Achieving something that everybody said we'd never do. Freeing 30,000 human beings. I didn't say 30. You can clap for 30. I said 30,000 human beings from federal prison. Well, it started out with the election of Donald Trump, which for me was a less than happy day. And it got even less happy because I work at CNN. It got even less happy when his son-in-law, a guy named Jared Kushner, took my boss out for dinner after the election. My boss, one of the great cable news directors of all time, goes out to dinner with Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner tells my boss, look, Zucker, we won. You guys were kicking our butts the whole time, but we won. It's a new day in Washington, D.C. If you want access, buddy, to the Trump White House, you've got to show us that you're going to be fair. And here's how you do it. To show us that you're fair, we want you to fire Ana Navarro and fire Van Jones because they've been too tough on Donald Trump. I thought that was unfriendly. And so when I found out about this, now honestly, I should have given him like a thank you card because that means I can never be fired from CNN. I mean, in the United States, you can't fire people because the government tells you to. So I have lifetime job security at CNN. So I should have sent the guy a thank you card, but I didn't. I went on television that night and I said, Jared Kushner is riding his tricycle around in the Oval Office and needs to get a real job. That's what I said to Jared Kushner. And he thought that was unfriendly. So we didn't start off as friends, me and Jared. Not at all. In fact, there was a war between CNN and the Trump White House where they would call us Fox News and we would tell the truth about them. And so, and this went on for a while. And then I got a phone call. Jared Kushner wants to talk to you. I couldn't wait for this call. I was inventing cuss words. This dude trying to get me fired from my job with this many chairmen? calls, man. No, I can't wait for this call. I'm going to cuss this dude up and down. I don't know why he's calling me. And he says, Van, I heard that you care about criminal justice. I was like, wait a minute. This call is going badly. And I just want you to know, my father went to prison when I was growing up. And I want you to know, my brother and I went to visit him every weekend. And I know personally that our federal prison system is a nightmare. And I want to do something about it. He said, when I was going through what I was going through, there was nobody in the White House who cared about me, who cared about people like me. And now I'm in the White House, and I want to do something about it, and I need your help. And I said, shit. This is terrible. I don't want to help Jared Kushner. If I help Jared Kushner, what are my friends at CNN going to think? If I help Jared Kushner, what are my friends in the Democratic Party going to think? If I help Jared Kushner, what are my friends going to think? This is the Trump administration. As far as we're concerned, this is the worst administration since they invented the word administration. If I reach out my hand to this guy, I'm going to get canceled. I'm going to get canceled. And I thought about it. 200,000 people in federal prison, 200,000. Some of them did bad stuff. Some of them did really, really bad stuff. Some of them were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But none of them. What's your name, young man? What's your name? Naher? Naher. None of them, if they're in federal prison, none of them can vote. They're not allowed. Okay? So it's not their fault who the president is. Also, none of them can march. They can't go on demonstrations. They can't tweet. So their opinions, how they feel, what they want, they basically have no voice. 200,000 people who are like that. Some did bad things. Some did very bad things. Some were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But none of them have any rights. None of them have any voice. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to look at those people and say, I'll help you when I have a president that I like? I'll help you get home. I'll help you with your rights. I'll help you when I like the president. That might take 4 years, might take 8, might take 12, but I'll come back then. That was the choice I had to make. I started thinking about that. And what I said to myself was, we've never had anybody like Jared Kushner in the White House. Somebody with personal experience and the ear of the president. And he is riding a tricycle around. He is brand new. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. And I used to work for President Obama. I know that building very well. And so I decided to quote my good friend Jay-Z. And I said, brother, with you, I got 99 problems, but prisons ain't one. I will help you. I will help you. And I caught hell. I caught hell. I got called everything but a child of God by my own folks. I used to trend on Twitter so often that my children would call me. Like, Daddy, you're trending on Twitter again. I said, I know. And I had to tell my son, he's in high school, it's embarrassing for him. I said, let me tell you something. My worst day on Twitter is better than anybody's best day in prison, son. My worst day on Twitter is better than anybody's best day in prison. I've never met anybody in prison who said, Van, help me. I got to get out of here. I'm being mistreated. I'm being brutalized. I miss my mother. I miss my daughter. I want to go home. Please help me. But Van, whatever you do, don't talk to any Republicans. No, that's not what they say. They say, help me, period. And so we linked arms. And we had our ups and our downs. But when it was all said and done, a guy named Donald J. Trump signed a bill in the Oval Office called the First Step Act. That bill let 35,000 people home from federal prison, 35,000 people home. Now, ordinarily, you could say, hope you didn't get in trouble. Ordinarily, it's true, we're all friends here, the return to prison rate from federal prison is pretty bad because the federal prisons are pretty bad. So ordinarily, by now, about 70% of those people will be back in prison. That's just, we don't have to lie to each other, Ariana. We know how this works. So ordinarily, 30,000 people would have come home, 35,000 people would have come home, and about 70% would already be back in trouble. You still get 30%, so you're all right, but 70% not so good. With this group, Ariana, wasn't 70% that returned to prison. Wasn't 60. Wasn't 50. Wasn't 40. Wasn't 30% going back to prison. Wasn't 20% going back to prison. 15% went back to prison. Half of those for technical violations. 8% got in trouble again. The most successful prison reform in the history of prisons. In the history of prisons. And when Donald Trump signed the bill, he turned around and handed me the pen. Handed me the pen. That's what's available. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. It's a miracle. But it's available to people, young brother, when you don't go along with the peer pressure to not like that person and not like that person because your crew says don't like them. See, that's not how we do. We treat everybody right. We give everybody a chance, even if it's not popular. Does that make sense? Even if it's not popular, we give everybody a chance. And when you do that, miracles happen. Miracles happen. Now, if that's true on the playground, and we know it's true on the playground, that's true in the world. And so I want to conclude with something that is my secret formula. Having worked in the worlds now that we've been working in, I've developed a secret formula as a Democrat for being able to move people in the MAGA movement, Donald Trump's movement, to causes that anybody in here would embrace. Do you want to hear my secret formula? Yeah. Are you sure? I can give it to you, or I can keep it to myself. Very simple. When I go speak to MAGA crowds, and often I have to speak to MAGA crowds because usually look, the United States, most black people are locked up in red states and purple states. It's not that many black folk locked up in Oregon, okay? It's usually Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana. So if you're gonna get people out of jail, you're gonna deal with a lot of red states, a lot of Republicans, and a lot of Republican gatherings. And so I have to go and speak to a lot of Republican gatherings. And when I go to Republican gatherings, there are a lot of Republicans. And so I had to learn to talk. And here's my speech. It works every time. You can use it, kind of got to change it, but for me, it works every time. I just say, hello. Imagine this whole room full of people, MAGA hats, NRA t-shirts, the whole deal, trucks in the back, in the parking lot, gun racks, Confederate flags, the whole deal. Me, happy. Happy. I'm completely at home. This is what I say. I say, hello, my name is Van Jones. I am a black activist. I used to work for Barack Obama, and now I'm on CNN. So I don't have to lie to you, and you don't have to lie to me. 3 strikes, I'm already out. So we don't have to fool around with each other at all. And by the way, with that resume and that record, that reputation, you might think that I am mad at you. You might think that I am mad at you. And you would be correct. You'd be correct. I'm mad at you because I need you. I'm mad at you because I need you. I'm mad at you because I can't have the country I want without you. I'm mad at you because you're some of the best people in this country. I'm mad at you because some of you are veterans just like my father. You know what it means to sacrifice for this country. Some of you are union members just like my mom. You know what it means to stand up for somebody and stick together. Some of the best people in this country. Some of you are small business owners. You're putting food on the table for families every night. You're some of the best people in this country, and I could put you in a car right now, and I could drive you 20 minutes, and I could show you American children going to bed hungry. I could show you American children who've never seen their father because their father is in a grave or in prison for doing the same drugs your kids are doing in college right now. And where the hell are you guys? These kids need you. They need your wisdom. They need your strength. They need your values. And by the way, you need these children too. They're some of the best kids America's ever produced. They're resilient, they're creative, they're striving, they're trying. America's grandchildren might look a little different than America's grandparents. They might look a little different, but they're still America's kids. They're still America's kids. And they need you. And you need them. And by the way, stay in your party. Don't come to my party, we got enough problems. You stay in your party, you fix your party, and I'll fix mine. But I'm not leaving here until we figure out what we're going to do for these damn kids. And those guys would follow me into machine gun fire. And I'd follow them. Because I'm not calling them out. I'm calling them up. I'm calling them in. I'm not telling them what's wrong with them. I'm telling them what's right about them. I'm telling them what's right about them. You want to make America great again? Good. Somebody needs to. Somebody needs to. But you got to start with America's children. What are we going to do for these damn kids? And I never lose in politics because I always have the 2 secret weapons. Anytime I walk into a legislative body with those marble stairs, I got the 2 secret weapons. You can't beat me because I'm going to have a black grandmama with a church hat who you can't out-argue. I don't care if you went to Harvard. And I'm going to have a white grandpa with a MAGA hat fighting for these damn kids. We've been lying to you in the media the whole time. You would think that the problem with this country is there's too many awful people in the Republican Party and too many awful people in the Democratic Party for us to ever get anything done. There's some awful people, that's true. It's the smallest problem we have. The smallest problem you have is the awful people. Here's the real problem. We have so many awesome people in both parties. So many awesome people in every color group. So many awesome people in every faith group. So many awesome people who just don't know what to do. That's your problem. Now, if you wake up every morning and focus on the awesome people, you can create miracles. Thank you very much.